Good evening. I'm Makhdoom Shahabuddin and this is Trending Daily. Tonight's episode is about message that echo beyond words, a field marshal's speech that shook the region, and a border dispute that refuses to die. In Kabul, Field Marshal Asim Munir delivered the strongest national security address. He warned India against adventurism in a nuclearized environment and told Pakistan's enemies that every drop of innocent blood will be avenged. And on our western frontier, the Afghan regime is again fanning the flames over the Durand Line, a border drawn 132 years ago that still defines our security calculus. One speech, one border, two messages. Pakistan is done with provocations, but it will never be done with defending its sovereignty. Let's begin with that historic speech at PMA Kabul. At the Pakistan Military Academy, Field Marshal Asim Munir stood before young cadets and sent a message heard in every capital from New Delhi to Kabul. He said, and I quote, "There is no space for war in a nuclearized environment." A single sentence, but it carried the weight of deterrence. It wasn't a plea for peace. It was a reminder that in South Asia, war is no longer a game of territory. It's a game of survival. Field Marshal Asim Munir's first message was clear. Pakistan will not initiate war, but if provoked, the response will be far beyond expectations. That is not boasting. It's calculated deterrence. It creates strategic uncertainty, the very thing that keeps adversaries awake at night. He said, and I quote, "We will not lose an inch of our sacred land." This isn't mere patriotism. It's a policy statement, a line drawn in stone. Ladies and gentlemen, then came the next layer. Field Marshal Sayyid Asim Munir addressed not just India, but Afghanistan and its proxies. He urged the Taliban regime to act decisively against militant groups using Afghan soil to attack Pakistan. That was not diplomatic language. It was a final warning. For years, Pakistan has asked for cooperation. Now the message is different. Either control your terrorists or face consequences. Field Marshal did not hold back on India. He accused New Delhi of politicizing terrorism, staging evidence, and using proxies for strategic gain. His words hit the core of India's propaganda machine, a system that labels its own failures as Pakistan's fault while funding destabilization through back channels. By naming India's double game in a global forum, the Field Marshal tore through the veil of moral superiority India tries to wear and shows the world. But this speech wasn't just for India and Afghanistan. It was for the international community. He reminded global powers that Pakistan is a responsible nuclear state, one that believes in peace through strength, not weakness. He reiterated that Pakistan seeks stability on the basis of equality and mutual respect, not through submission. In a region teetering on the edge, that statement mattered a lot. Field Marshal Asim Munir closed with a tribute that struck every heart listening. He said, "The blood of every innocent Pakistani will be avenged." He called unity our wall of steel, Bunyanum Marsus. That's not symbolism. It's a reminder that the army and the nation are one body, different organs, same soul. Ladies and gentlemen, analysts see this address by Field Marshal Sayyid Asim Munir as a multi-layered deterrent strategy. At one level, nuclear warning. At another, proportional response threat. And beneath it, domestic mobilization for unity and preparedness. It tells India, you can't bully a nuclear power. It tells Kabul, your soil cannot be a launchpad for terror. It tells the world, Pakistan is a regional actor, but not a silent one. Ladies and gentlemen, we took this speech to the people, to the streets of Islamabad and Rawalpindi. Let's see what the people have to say. It's time for public pulse. क्या कहना चाहेंगे पाक फौज की जो पॉलिसी है, इंडिया को भी मौके पे जवाब दिया, अफगानिस्तान के साथ क्लैशेस में भी जवाब दिया, और अभी रिसेंटली फील्ड मार्शल ने भी अपनी स्पीच में वाजे कर दिया है कि जो आएगा उसे मौके पे जवाब मिलेगा, क्या कहेंगे?
अच्छा सर, पाक फौज हमारे पाकिस्तान का बुनियाद है और हम इंशाल्लाह पाक फौज को सपोर्ट करेंगे और इंशाल्लाह पाक फौज जिंदाबाद।
हमारी फ़ौज ने हर बार मौके पे ही जवाब दिया, जो उनसे भी जंग होती है मौके पे जवाब दिया है, तो हम अपनी पाक आर्मी के साथ खड़े हैं हमेशा के लिए, और हमारी अवाम भी, और जब जब ज़रूरत पड़ेगी अवाम की तो हम भी साथ खड़े होंगे, और हम मुतमईन हैं कि हमारी पाक आर्मी हमारे मुल्क की हिफाजत करे।
Welcome back to the studios. Ladies and gentlemen, as Pakistan warns the world against provocations, our western neighbor Afghanistan continues to manufacture provocations of its own. The latest flashpoint is not just terrorism, it's geography itself. A line drawn in 1893, the Durand Line, and now the Pakistan-Afghanistan international border is now being used to fan nationalist fire by Taliban regime. Let's unpack how Kabul is weaponizing history just to justify tensions with Pakistan. The Durand Line was drawn in 1893 by Sir Mortimer Durand and Amir Abdur Rahman Khan. It stretched 2,640 kilometers and split the Pashtun tribes between two realms. Afghanistan accepted it then and reaffirmed it in 1919 Treaty of Rawalpindi. But when Pakistan was born in 1947, Afghanistan became the only country to vote against its admission to the United Nations, claiming the Pashtuns should choose independence or union with Kabul. That's where this decades-long obsession began. In the 1950s and 60s, Prime Minister and later President Muhammad Dawood Khan turned that obsession into policy. He funded Pashtun nationalist movements inside Pakistan. He supported cross-border raids. He dreamed of a Pashtunistan, a state cut out of Pakistan's northwest. That policy collapsed, but its mindset inside Afghanistan somehow survived. Fast forward to today, the Taliban leadership openly says it does not recognize the international border or the Durand Line, which is actually Pakistan-Afghanistan international border. Their fighters tear down fences, attack checkposts, and call Pakistani border defenses illegal. At the same time, they allow TTP terrorists to operate freely inside Afghanistan. This isn't just about history. It's about leverage. By keeping the border issue alive, Kabul tries to bargain for recognition, funds, and political space internationally. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan's stance is clear and rooted in law. Under the principle of uti precedes juris, newly independent states inherit their colonial borders. Every international treaty from 1893 to 1919 reaffirmed the Durand Line as a border between Pakistani territory and Afghanistan. Pakistan is not redrawing borders, it is protecting the recognized ones. In 1947, the people of NWFP voted overwhelmingly to join Pakistan. That was the final referendum. Case closed. But instead of closing the file, Afghanistan keeps reopening it. Whenever domestic pressures mount, economic collapse, civil unrest, international isolation, Kabul finds it convenient to blame Islamabad. Border skirmishes are televised, and statements against Pakistan trend on their social media. And the Durand Line becomes a flag for misdirection. This is information warfare disguised as patriotism. But here's the reality Kabul cannot ignore. More than 2.5 million Afghan refugees live peacefully in Pakistan. Trade routes, healthcare, and education for Afghans depend on Pakistani infrastructure. And despite provocations, Pakistan has shown enormous restraint, responding only when its sovereignty is crossed. But patience has limits. If terrorists and propagandists continue to use Afghan soil as their shield, Pakistan will defend itself decisively and legally. The Pak-Afghan international border, and termed as Durand Line by the Afghan Taliban regime, this issue is also being exploited by external actors. India sees Afghanistan as a useful pressure point to open a second front against Pakistan. by supporting Kabul's anti-Pakistan narratives. New Delhi hopes to divert attention from its on-border provocations. It's a classic two-front strategy, psychological warfare at both ends. But Pakistan has read that playbook very well. We're not reacting emotionally, we're responding strategically. Pakistan's policy is straightforward. Dialogue, yes. Defense, always. The Durand Line is an international border, period. No amount of historic revisionism will change that. Pakistan will continue to pursue peaceful relations with Afghanistan through trade, security cooperation, and mutual respect. But if Kabul continues to harbor terrorists or challenge our sovereignty, Islamabad will act and the world will know why. So tonight's episode leaves us with two realities. On one hand, a field marshal telling the world that Pakistan will protect peace through power. On the other hand, a neighbor still trapped in old maps and old myths. But the message from Kabul to Kandahar is now crystal clear. Pakistan wants peace, but Pakistan will not be provoked. We stand firm for our borders, for our martyrs. This is Makhdoom Shahabuddin signing off. See you next week.